Do you know the one thing inside of you that's stopping you from doing the things that you want to do and becoming the person that you want to be? See, the one thing preventing you from achieving the life of your dreams is your internal story. And in today's show, I'll show you how to change the stories that are ruining your life. And I'm going to teach you how to turn fear into faith by changing your story, because as Kindra Hall states in her most recent book, Change Your Story, Change Your Life, quote, "It's never too late to start a new story." The framework you're going to learn in today's show is called thought farming, and it's just one of the strategies you can use to start living with no doubt. Now, I put my best strategies in my book, Unlimited Potential: How to Stop Living with Fear, Doubt, and Uncertainty. And you can grab a copy for yourself at unlimitedpotentialbook.com. Go that and grab that book and then learn how to create the attitudes, the beliefs, and the commitments you need to fulfill your personal mission in life. For those of you who don't know, my name is Fortune. I'm the author of 3 books and a self-publishing strategist for established coaches and consultants who want to read a book and use that book to grow their business. Now, I've created a proprietary method of getting your book out of your head in less than 4 hours using a phone and a few websites. Now, this show teaches you how to do that and build the sales funnels to turn your leads into clients and customers. Now, remember, you're only one book away from a breakthrough in your life or in your business. So let's talk about your thought fortune. In today's show, I'm going to teach you how to turn fear into faith by changing your internal story. So you have internal stories that are ruining your life, and we're going to change that today. So here's the first concept for your notes. I hope you already have your paper ready. What you see on the inside becomes your outside, because your internal stories are magnetic. Your internal stories they push and they pull your life. For example, imagine before you got to school, your teacher was told that you were not part of the genius students. How do you think this would affect your class performance? According to Rosenthal and Jacobson, the Pygmalion effect would change the kind of teaching you'd receive. The researchers proved their theory when they conducted their experiments. They told teachers they had tested some of their students and found that 18 of them were geniuses. And as a result, those students' IQ scores increase much more than the rest of the class. But the truth was this: the 18 students had been chosen at random. The only thing that changed was the story the teachers believed. The challenge here is that the Pygmalion effect is a self-fulfilling prophecy based on what others expect of you. The question is, can the same be said of you? And let's think about that for a second. Have you ever given up on something because you remembered that one time when you failed at it miserably? Have you not approached a woman because you remember being turned down and humiliated by that cute girl back in high school? Are you afraid to go live or create a video because you remember embarrassing yourself in a live presentation? Have you not written the book you've been wanting to write because you remember getting poor grades in English and those red slashes all across your reports? Are you not marketing consistently because you haven't produced a viral post yet? What about this? Do you hate sales because of some image of a sleazy, fast-talking guy who pops up into your head and makes your stomach makes it turn? You see, those are the internal stories you've been telling yourself. And those internal stories are a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like the teacher's treatment of the genius students versus the average students, you treat yourself the same way in different areas of your life based on thinking if you're average or a genius. So let me get more personal. When I first began public speaking, I was scared. I was willing to get up and present because I have an internal story that tells me to face fears head on. But I'd get on stage, y'all, and try to prove that I deserved to be there, which meant I talked very fast and you would get every bit of information that I could give you. But I wasn't engaged. I wasn't presenting. I was giving a report and focusing on my material. It wasn't until I created my 5-part instant confident process that I calmed down and started to have conversations from stage. And one part of my process includes visualizing myself hitting the game-winning home run. And that was also the moment that my young baseball career, which also led to a full athletic scholarship, that's when everything changed. That scene is etched in my memory because it's true. And I use it as evidence to support my subconscious that I can be calm and step up in the moment to do what needs to be done for those that are depending on me. Now, you too can create powerful stories that help you do the things that will move you forward in your life and business. And today, I'm going to teach you how. See, internal stories are like an autopilot setting for your life. They determine whether you'll achieve your goals and how you'll achieve them. And love is the strongest setting. Now, I wish I had time to dive into that more, but understand this. You'll do more for love than you will for any other emotion. You will risk everything, the people, the places, things, and ideas you truly love because you want to do it out of love. So if your internal stories are like an autopilot setting for your life, who set the settings? More importantly, what are your settings? Or said differently, what are your internal stories? And how do you change the ones that don't move you forward? The way I recommend answering this question is through a process I call thought farming. So have you heard the story about the farmer and the preacher? As the story goes, a preacher was driving through the countryside one day admiring God's work when he noticed a particularly well-kept farm. In the distance, he sees a farmer sitting tall in his tractor seat. So the preacher pulls his car over to the side of the road to wait on the farmer. The preacher honks his horn when the farmer is within earshot. The farmer throttles down his tractor and he greets the preacher. God sure has blessed you with a beautiful farm, the preacher says, nodding, still amazed at the plentiful crops and blossoming flower beds and the lush lawn in front of him. The farmer looks around the farm, nodding to himself before saying, yes, he has, and I'm grateful, but you should have seen this place when he had it all to himself. The two men exchange glances, continue with the usual southern hospitalities, and they part ways. Now, headed down the road again, the preacher ponders the farmer's thoughts. Something about those words has stirred his spirit. I'm grateful, but you should have seen this place when he had it to himself. That was it. He knew the subject of his next sermon. No matter the land you're given, you determine what becomes of it. Now, why do I mention this parable? Here's why. Because you're going to learn the 3 steps of farming your thoughts and creating something from what God has given you or that life has given you. The 3 steps are till, plant, nurture. Number 1, till the soil. Now, the idea here of tilling the soil is preparing the land for farming. And in order to till the land for farming, there's a couple things you got to do. There's several things you got to do, but I'm going to focus on just a few of those things. Mainly what you're doing is you're going and removing the rocks. You're removing the tree stumps, the debris, all this stuff from the land that you are preparing for planting new seeds, right? For the next steps in your process. That also means you need to turn over the land, which means you're digging up the land and creating these rows where you're going to plant your seeds. All of this is preparation for you planting a seed and growing your farm. The same needs to be done for laying the lawn out there. If you need to put some new lawn out, and if you're going to do flower beds, the same thing happens there. You till the soil, prepare the soil for the seeds that you're going to plant. So here's the thought. Here's the idea for your notes. Again, you can only change the stories you know. So what does that mean? It means you must start listening to yourself, listening to those internal stories as they occur or that you remember. So there's two things to do here. One is to go back and think about the internal thoughts, the internal stories that you're telling yourself. I'm not this. I can't do this. I am this. Or the reason I can't do this is because of this. Those thoughts that come up and stop you from taking action, that prevents you from doing anything, that the money blocks, the spiritual blocks, the relationship blocks that you have, those internal stories you're telling yourself that you can remember, you write them down. As you move forward from here in your life, when those internal blocks come up, that internal story pops up and tells you can't do this or that, I want you to write it down. This is tilling the soil. You're finding the rocks, you're finding the stumps, you're finding the debris, you're finding the things that are in your life, that are in your thoughts, and you're going to remove them so you can prepare the soil for the seeds that you're going to plant. And here are 3 questions to know whether that story that you're pulling up, the ideas that are popping in your head, whether they are preventing you from preventing you from doing the things that you truly want to do, from becoming the person that you truly want to become. The 3 questions are: 1, is this true? So you want to question this idea. You're going to assess it. You're going to think it over. You're going to analyze the story. Is it true? And the next question is it useful? Because just because something is true about you doesn't mean that it's useful. It's true that I am 5'9", right? But it's not true that I could not still hit the game-winning home run over a 300 foot fence. So it was not useful for me to think that I'm only 5'9", I'm not a big guy, not necessarily what you look at as a home run hitter. But I still did it multiple times, hitting home run, right? When I was in college and in high school and so forth. Now, the same thing could happen for that speaking. Is it true that I didn't deserve to be on stage? See, I was to put this out to you. If it was true that you were not supposed to be doing these things, you would not be having an opportunity to do those things. Okay? If it's true that you're not supposed to be speaking, then you would not have the desire to speak. If it's true that you're not supposed to be successful, then you would not have the opportunity to be successful. It doesn't mean that life's not going to throw things at you that's going to cause some hiccups, that's going to cause some problems, that's going to create some challenges for you to overcome. Now, it may be true that you have some things about your personality or some circumstances that may make it difficult, but that doesn't mean those things are useful. So the second question is it useful? The third question here is, does it move you forward? Okay? Is that story useful to you? Maybe it is. Maybe it is useful for you to remember that you don't have all the skill sets. So maybe you can't go do everything right now. Maybe that is useful. But does that move you forward? Now let's take a negative, something that could be thought of as negative. Again, go back to my story about speaking, right? It was true that I didn't have a lot of experience speaking. True. Is that useful? It could be useful because I need to make sure when I go on stage that I do my best, and I need to give myself some grace. I need to be very prepared for when I was going on stage back in the day. So it was useful. But does that thought of you are not experienced or you haven't been speaking, is that going to move me forward? No, it's not. So I did not need to embrace that thought. which is the reason why I looked for opportunities in my life or experiences in my life that actually moved me forward, where I stepped up to the challenge even when I might not have looked ready, or when the situation was dire, or the situation wasn't in my favor, or at least it appeared so. In that home run scenario that I talk about when speaking, that I use to this day to visualize, I was like 5'8" and like 140 some pounds, maybe 150 pounds. I was usually batting like first, second, or third, which means I was not necessarily the power hitter. We were in extra innings. And this guy, this left-handed pitcher, had just been striking people out. He was doing his thing. He was very good. I remember very vividly seeing my father across the way in front of me, on the other side of the fence, telling me to trust myself, that I needed to do what you've been taught, because he had been teaching me, of course. So he told me to do what he'd been taught. And in the game, that confidence that he had in me, I got into the box with a whole different swagger. And I'd already visualized, if he throws that ball on the outside, I am about to tattoo it. And the first pitch came, and I saw it all the way, boom, I tattooed it. I stepped up to the challenge for my team. When this guy had already struck me out the last at bat, it made me look silly. But it wasn't going to happen that time. I stepped up, okay? So till the soil. We go in there, you're going into your thoughts, you're thinking about your story, think about your experiences. You're going to pull out the rocks, the stumps, the debris, and start turning the soil to get it prepared for step 2. Okay? And the questions you're going to ask when you find these stories that are hindering you, that are slowing you down, that are against or moving, that are stopping you from moving forward. Is it true? Is it useful? Does it move you forward? Okay? And if it's not, then those are the stories that you need to change. Move on to step 2. Step 2 is plant the seeds. Plant the seeds. In this step, you want to choose the right seeds for what you're trying to grow, for the farm that you're trying to grow. So what does that mean? That means if you are looking to become an athlete, you got to plant seeds that are moving you towards becoming an athlete. That might mean that an athlete eats a certain way, they get up at a certain time, they take certain behaviors, they exercise, they think a certain way. If you are to become an entrepreneur, you're trying to grow and become a successful entrepreneur instead of just starting a business, there are certain seeds that you need to plant about your self-confidence, the type of thinking that you have to do, the type of self-care that you're going to do, the type of connections that you're going to make. And if it's an internet-based business, there's certain types of thinking that you need to do, certain type of software you need to do, a certain type of marketing that you're going to do. There's certain types of business assets that you need to accrue. There's a certain way you're going to behave online than you would differently from a business that's offline. Of course, we've got to talk about books. If you're going to become an author, which I help my authors do, is to develop a different type of mindset. I help them to embrace becoming a wealthy author. And so that might mean that you need to create an environment like the lab that we're in right now, where I create. This is my space. I teach my authors to create a space for writing. Okay. So that's what writers do. They create a space for writing. Writers write even when they don't want to. They just write a little bit, or they write a lot. They write. Okay, writers write. Authors announce that they're authors. They talk about their books. Say that they've produced those books. So whether your book's done or not, you're going to say, I'm writing a book. I'm the author of. Authors talk about their books often. Okay? You're going to do certain behaviors that embrace certain behaviors that an author does. You're going to plant those seeds, right? And part of planting the seeds is trying to find the right stories to help you do that, either from your past where you've done successful doing certain things that are similar to the things you're trying to achieve, or that are in alignment, that are similar to. Maybe you have a personality that you need to create. There is a behavior that you need to create, a habit that you need to create that you've done in another area of life like you heard me talk about with the baseball, that's not about speaking, but it's similar to what I needed to do in order to become a speaker. So is there something that aligns with the story that you need to create for yourself in order to become or do the things that you need to do? Here's the idea for your thoughts, for your notes. You must choose the stories to live by. So seek stories that inspire. Seek stories that inspire. And here's one of the reasons why that is very important to me. When I initially tried to change my life back in 2014, I found a book by Tracy Syphax. And the book was called From the Block to the Boardroom, because I was looking for people that had a story that was similar to mine. Someone that had gone down the wrong path and had found their way back to the path that they should have been on. Someone that had somewhat destroyed their life and had rebuilt their life. I was looking for those stories that would inspire me. And this story was about a man who was a drug dealer. Not that I was a drug dealer, but he was doing stuff. He was a criminal that changed his life and became a very successful businessman. And now does, to this day, continues to do things for people who are in reentry, because it's hard for someone to come out of prison and try to rebuild a life. No matter what the world says, a person that's trying to change their life may need some help, more than likely needs some help. I was looking for those people who had did that. That is one way of finding help, is looking for those stories. I had the pleasure, my first podcast interview was to interview Tracy Syphax. He wanted to give back. Now, I'm sorry, Tracy, if you're watching this video, I never published that podcast. I kept it to myself. Maybe I need to do that now, but I kept that story to myself. But it was so powerful to actually hear the man speak life into me and continue to share that message of hope with other people who needed to hear that story. Okay. For you who are listening to you're probably a coach, you're offering a service, or you're a consultant. There are people who need to hear the stories that you have. And if you're not telling those stories, hopefully something we're talking about today in this removing those internal stories that are stopping you from moving forward, that you're going to start using the internal stories to go out and tell your story, because that can be difficult for some to go do. But what you're going to do is find those stories and start writing those stories down, or at least thinking about those stories in as much detail as you can that are inspirational to you. Again, you can borrow them. They can be stories that, like I did with Tracy Syphax, they can be similar to the concepts that you need to embrace, like I did for the speaking, where I use a story for baseball that's similar in what I needed to do to help me become a better speaker. But then I also have the fallback when I wrote my second and third book, that I'd already written a book already. And so I can remember back when I was trying to write my second book on overcoming procrastination, I was like, I don't know if I can write another book, right? That was difficult. But I also remembered I've already written a book. I knew how to do it. So I challenged myself to write that book, and then I did it again, and I did it again, and I started helping other people. So I used those stories from already publishing a book to help me publish the next book. Okay, those 3 different examples of planting new seeds by taking new stories. And you gotta get them vivid. You have other videos I'll link in here that talk about how to tell stories, the keys to telling very powerful stories. I'll make sure you have links to that, to those videos here. So step 2 is plant the seeds. Step 3, the final step here, is nurture the crop. So the idea here is to protect the seedlings as they grow. The most important time in your seeds growth, in the story, when you're planting these new stories, the most important time is in the beginning, because they're not strong enough on their own for them to change how you behave, to change your emotions, to change your perspectives, to change your beliefs. Those stories are not strong enough to do that, because the stories that you've already been using up to this date are very strong. They are going to come out very They're going to immediate. Remember, they're on autopilot. So they're going to come up very strong. And it may be difficult for you reinforce your new stories if you don't nurture them. You have to make these new stories strong, or those old stories are going to start playing again and affecting your behavior and affecting your results. So what does this look like? You got to protect your new stories from the weeds and the insects. So your weeds and insects are going to kill them. These may be the people, they may be the places, they may be these other experiences that are going to try to fight you. That this new story that you are putting out into the world, that you're talking to yourself about, this internal story you're building and trying to embrace and make stronger, this other stuff, these weeds and insects are going to try to kill that seed before it can grow, before it starts affecting your life positively and moving you forward in your life. So you got to protect it from the weeds and the insects that are trying to destroy this new story. You must give this new story the nutrients and the sunlight that it needs to grow strong and be fruitful. Okay, so what are we saying here? What I'm saying here is that you have to continually repeat this story. Give it the emotion, give it the time, give it the focus that it needs in order to be strong. And also means, like, by putting it into the sunlight, that might mean you repeat the story to someone else. You say it aloud, as Kindra Hall suggests that you do. So now you can fully embrace the story. I want you to step into it. When I go to speak, I literally swing my hands, have my eyes closed sometimes as I'm hitting that home run. And I see the ball hitting the bat, and I see it traveling out in the left field, and I'm running around the bases, pumping my hand in the air like Montreal Expos player back in the day, hitting the game-winning home run. I visualize that. I can take myself to that moment. You want to do that same thing. That's how you give nutrients and sunlight to that story. You nurturing it. You protect it and you provide for it. Okay? And that will make it strong, because here's the thing. Stress is when your internal and your external stories don't align. Here's what I mean. That when you are telling yourself that you can't do something, but you're trying to do it, that causes stress. Or the opposite, when the internal story in you is saying you can't do this, but the evidence out here is that you're failing, you causes stress. Which story are you going to let win? And that's a story that you pull the weeds from and protect. That's a story that you are going to feed the nutrients and the sunlight so they grow strong. That is a story that you're going to become the autopilot setting for your life. So you must repeat your new stories regularly. If that means you got to do it as part of your morning routine or your nightly routine, then do that. If that means you create a ritual before you start speaking, or before you start writing, or before you get on a sales call, or before you do a coaching call, or before you speak to whomever, then you do that eventually. As I talk about in my 5-part confidence course. And if you want to know that 5-part confidence course, if you think that's something you want, just drop me a comment saying confidence course, and I will send you the link to that. That is one of my most powerful short courses. There's 5 parts to it. And eventually I got that confidence portion from a long visualization and a process down to about 17 seconds. Because the research shows that 17 seconds of meditation drastically improves your your brain circuitry. And the 5-part confidence course is a kind of meditation, but you're not like sitting going om or anything like that. I'm teaching you how to breathe. I'm teaching you how to visualize and reinforce the stories that we're talking about right now. So it is basically a form of meditation that's rewiring your brain for success and for you to do what you design it. You're setting your autopilot for achieving your life, for becoming who you want to become. So if you want that, put confidence course put it in the link comments down below here, put it on here, send a message to me, DM, and I'll make sure I get you a way to grab that course. Okay. But you want to repeat your stories regularly. So again, to repeat, 1, till the soil. Remove all the rocks and stumps and all those thoughts, and then that are stopping you from moving forward. You sit down and think about the past stuff, and then as you go forward in your life, as something comes up, you make sure you write it down. Put that on paper, and then ask yourself the 3 questions: Is it true? Is it useful? And does it move you forward? If it's not true, if it's not useful, and it doesn't move you forward, all 3 of them, then you probably need to remove it. Which takes us to step number 2: plant the seeds. You want to choose the right seeds that's going to help you get the job done. That means choose the right stories that are going to help you move forward. And those stories may be borrowed from someone else. They may be similar to maybe a different subject or different situation that you've had success in, that's going to help you get the success that you need in this current situation. Or they may be past experiences that are evidence that you can succeed in this area. So those are the 3 areas there for planting the seeds. The 3rd step here again is nurture the crop. Okay. And this is about protecting the seedlings so they can grow, because you must repeat this regularly. Protect it from those, there are other thoughts that come in and try to override it. You must nurture it by constantly repeating it, and you must use it regularly. Those are the 3 points here for nurturing the crop. Okay. Now I want to land this plane with one last story. So Adam Grant and 2 research assistants, they separated some people that were working at a call center for fundraising. And they separated them into 3 different groups. Group 1, the first group, they gave some stories to read that were benefit to others. Okay, so the stories are read, we're talking about how what they were doing is going to benefit others. The second group, they gave stories to read that were benefits to me, meaning benefits to themselves. So they read stories that's like, the work that you're doing is going to be so awesome. It's going to be, you're going to feel so good about this and that. Thank you so much for doing this work. All right. So it made them feel good about the work they were doing. Okay. Personally feel good, because the focus was on them. The third group didn't receive any instructions. That was called the control group. All right, so at the conclusion of the study, the benefits to others reading group more than doubled the number of pledges and the amount raised over the groups that were benefit to me, and that didn't receive any instruction. More than doubled. So what does this really mean? This research suggests that the stories that speak to how noble your work is can drastically affect your performance. So when you go out to help the people that you know you're supposed to go out to serve through your business, through your coaching, through your consulting, through your speaking, through your services, make sure that you remember who you're doing it for. One of the best ways to do that is to collect testimonials and read them. When it's time to go, you've had a difficult sales call that didn't go the way you want and you're questioning yourself, grab some testimonials that you have and remember the results that you've gotten for other people. When you're having a bad day and you're just not feeling like getting into your work, grab some of the work, the testimonials you have, and think about how important the work is that you're doing, the lives that you're changing. Then go out there and keep doing what you do. Go out there and change and transform lives. I hope today's conversation has been beneficial, that you will be able to take these three steps: till, plant, and nurture, to do some thought forming and change the internal stories that are ruining your life so that you can become the individual that you want to become and to start doing the things that you truly want to do. You do not have to stay in the old stories. You have the power now to change those stories if you take the time to do it. I challenge you to do that today. I challenge you to do that today. And if you want to continue on this path of unleashing and unlocking your unlimited potential, you can go grab my book, Unlimited Potential, How to Stop Living with Fear, Doubt, and Uncertainty by going to unlimitedpotentialbook.com. Grab the book there, go through those exercises and start changing and removing the fear, removing the doubt, and start living a life of no doubt. With that being said, let's wrap this up right here, right now. You can be, you can do, you can have anything you want in this world. You just got to believe. You can live a life of no doubts, just blessings, and I will show you how. Well, always remember, always remember, you're only one book away from the next breakthrough in your life and in your business. So go out there and make life happen every day. God bless, and I'll talk to you next time.